What is happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. I'm Mike Spider Slater. We got Brant Fowler. We got Kat Comic Uno. We have the entire trio here tonight, which is a special treat for these days, right? But we're finally all here together, which is great.
It's been a few weeks, I think. It's been a few weeks.
Yeah, well, last week we didn't have a show because Brant came off of a show. I was sick. A lot of my viewers already knew I was sick because I still had.
You could all hear it.
Well, I was like, I still had recordings and I was sick. So it was pretty rough. But we're here tonight, which is the important thing, and we do have some news. We're going to talk about obviously Free Comic Book Day after the news, and then we'll talk about the comic books. And hopefully it'll be a fun show for everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's get into the news because there actually is some good news here. We have some media news first. We got Radiant Black is going to be an audiobook with the same actors that were doing the Boy Meets World actors that were doing the animation stuff. I continue to say the reason I even marked this down is just I think it's really cool how much that comic tries to innovate. I do, and it's funny, me and Mike, I think we're talking about the comic off show. Brant wasn't here, which is so funny because Brant is the biggest Radiant Black fan, but we were talking about like that arc, the current arc is kind of not killed it, but it's just like, for at least Mike, he dropped it. But for me, it's just like, oh man, it's really slow. And there's so much other innovation going on. I kind of wish they'd maybe focus a little less on the innovation and just tell us a story sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, the main reason that I marked this one down too was just because I thought it was cool because we got that video short a while back that Will Friedle did the voicing, and now he's doing the audiobook. So I thought that was cool that they're, like you said, they're doing these innovations. But I actually agree with you. I think this arc and this focus on this Catalyst War just kind of slowed down all the momentum that they had, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I still love it, but it's really slow. So.
Yeah.
We had some comments here. So just some Free Comic Book Day comments. First, we have the name changes. Says, I got 9 free comic books on Free Comic Book Day and saw they had volume 1 of Vinland Saga, which maybe it's Vintage Saga. Maybe there is a Vinland Saga. Saiyan Quad says, I rushed to Free Comic Book Day at my LCS before I did my shift at Fan Expo Philly and met Comic Uno there. Yes, it was so nice talking to you. Yes, it was cool. I actually saw a couple of Comic Uno watchers, so that's always satisfying awesome. and fun. So that's where I was for Free Comic Book Day. We will talk about that later. And yes, we are going to talk about the Superman suit, but maybe we'll jump into it. But Mike, do you have anything to add with the Radiant Black stuff? Again, we talked a little bit off camera about it, but
I dropped the book, and cool that it's an audio book. Like that's just another way for people to get familiar with the property, but for me, as of right now, I'm not reading it. So maybe after this whole war thing, if it gets back on track, moves on, maybe I'll pick it up again. But right now, I'm not into it.
Next up is let's show that Superman costume, the thing everyone's talking about. So I'm gonna share my window. I think here it is, and let's pull it up. You're seeing our doc. So this is the Twitter photo. So you got something going on in the background, some beams, but obviously the costume being the big thing. And you got the collar, you got the underwear, but you also got this very New 52 look because of the lines on the costume. Again, the collar is very New 52. It's so funny.
It looks all worn, doesn't it? It looks worn out.
It does. And it looks a little bit more like Kingdom Come, I would say. A little bit more like that symbol, but it's so interesting. Right. I mean, it's a cool image. It's great to analyze, but so interesting how many people are like, this movie's gonna suck or this movie's gonna be great by this like one picture.
Yeah. I mean, it's not my favorite suit. Like you can't tell really what it's gonna be like, obviously based off of a picture. But obviously your first impression of it is like it almost looks like he's wearing some like inflated suit or like the Halloween costumes that have added muscles or padding to the kids, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like you look around the shoulders and it looks like it wrinkles up, I I don't know. It's just on that first image. Does it look great to me? I don't think so.
I like the curl. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's not
Yeah.
his suit though. That's his.
That's true. That's his
personal-
face.
That's his face. And like
Yeah.
face wise and the curl and everything, that's fine. You know, the suit for me just looks off. But again, it's kind of a weird look because he's sitting down putting on boots. It looks like it's
Yeah.
like something like I would do at home. You know, hey guys, I'm putting on my sneakers and getting ready to go out. And it's like, and what's going on there in the background? You know, so I don't know
Yeah.
what's up with that, but
need to see it in action for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, he looks enough like Superman for me. So I mean, as far as his face and stuff, so I just need to see more, but it's okay.
Yeah, so that's your suit. I knew people were gonna be like, "We gotta talk about Superman," so I was like, "We'll talk about it." He looks a lot like Brandon Routh. I could see the similarity.
Yeah.
Evening Comic Book Weekly. Glad to see all three of y'all this week. Us too. We're happy. Let's see if there's anything else here. I wake up and look like that. I mean, you're a lucky guy if you wake up and look like that. All right, let's go into some comic news here. So Public Domain is getting a spinoff called The Domain. Brent, you marked this one off.
Yeah, because I thought it was interesting because the whole series, and I know both of you dropped it, I believe. The whole series was based on like this comic creator and him losing the rights to his character, the Domain, and now they're telling the actual story of the character in comic form. So I thought that was just cool to do it that way, to pull it out of the story. So it's a little art imitating life kind of meta stuff going on there, and I thought it was fun. So I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that background information, so it does make the news be like, oh, there's definitely a reason why this exists.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to X Factor Creative Team. This was actually announced today, so we have
just like found it like literally like an hour ago. Yeah.
It was funny because I was out, so I saw it maybe 3:00 around, and I didn't have my computer in front of me, so I couldn't add it. So right before the show, me and Brant were on the dock together, and we're both adding it exact same time.
Yeah. But I was like, that's not what I typed.
Like, what is this? What's going on? But at least it was the same. It was the same news piece. That was good.
Just different wording, yeah.
But the news is that Mark Russell and Bob Quinn, who did Kill Your Darlings, and maybe he's done some work for my comics on the cover, they're doing it. And I like Mark Russell, which I know you guys tend not to like his writing. This makes me lean towards wanting to get it because I really like his writing.
I'm like 50-50 on Mark Russell. Like some of his stuff, I just cannot. It just turns me off for some reason. But other things he writes, I'm like, oh, that's really good. So it just depends on the property, I think, or the story itself, whether I like it or not. But
I mean, for me, it's like X Factor, and it's more like a more classic style of X Factor, which looks pretty cool. I was trying to get a look at the roster. And what was the roster? Now I passed it up. I thought it was
definitely got Angel.
It's got it looks like it's got Angel, Havoc. So it's co-led by Angel and Havoc, and it includes recruits like Pyro, Frenzy, Feral, and then it says and more.
Definitely no characters. I'm like, wow, that makes me excited, but maybe that will make it interesting. Remember that Dazzler book, The Extinction, I think it was called?
Yeah, that one was good.
Yeah. And there's not the biggest known X-Men in the world, so it could be fun.
It's cool. I think you got some cool guys there, though. You got like Havoc, and Havoc is a good character, and Angel's a good character. I think that's pretty cool. I think there's some good. I think there's definitely some possibility in this book. I'm kind of excited for it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the art's going to be gorgeous. If it's Kill Your Darlings art, it's going to be beautiful. And I really like Havoc, and I like to see him away from Madeline and back on an X team. I like that. And some of those characters are, they're nostalgic for me, like Farrell and stuff. She was very prevalent in like the 90s and early 2000s. So good to see them back.
Who's to say Madeline's not going to be in this book, though?
Yeah, that's true.
Might be a surprise.
So we'll see what happens.
Other announcement here is Boom announces ongoing anthology series Hello Darkness. There's a lot of, bigger names on there.
Yeah. The only thing I wanted to say about this was because I was not going to mark this down, and I saw there was going to be an original Something is Killing the Children story in this book.
Oh, really?
That's a cool way to get people to read it.
Right. Yeah. So like it's got a bunch of creators that I'm never drawn to, like Brian Azzarello is one, people that do more horrific kind of darker stories, and they got those kind of creators, which is smart for, horror anthology.
Right.
But the Something is Killing the Children thing, I was like, oh, it's going to be a new story. Okay. I might have to, check this out now. So.
Tevye asks, any opinions on Crisis Part 3 trailer? You know what's funny? I don't think I have an opinion on Part 1 or Part 2s.
I watched Part 1 the other, like a week or two ago. It was okay.
Yeah, I've heard it's kind of slow and
it was very slow build up.
Yeah.
Very slow build up. Like the first, I don't know, 2/3 of the movie was just like this really slow build up that was just like, oh my God, get to the point.
Yeah. I have not watched the anime films in a long time. I haven't heard anything like, whoa, you gotta watch this one in a very long time.
Yeah. I was bored. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say I was bored in the middle of the night looking for something to watch, and I was like, "Oh, that's up there. I'll watch that." That's why I watched it.
Are you caught up with X-Men? Are you caught up with X-Men?
I forgot about it.
Oh my God!
I was just it slipped my mind.
Are you still like on episode 3?
I think so. Yeah. What is it up to now?
I will say that
this guy.
I think I'm gonna start watching X-Men, so I'm gonna get there. I don't know when it's happening, but I'm gonna start watching it because I've just heard so many good stuff, and I heard a certain character shows up.
I just can't, Brand.
I know.
Mike has been on me so hard about watching this show.
He needs to talk about it.
Well,
yeah,
because it's
I'm sorry.
You watched it when you were younger, right?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, didn't the Madeline Pryor episode was better, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, of course.
It was really good. And then
2 episodes from now is the best episode ever. And I don't know if that's in a good way, but it's really, really freaking good. And this series is like freaking phenomenal. I can't believe you're not on top of this shit, especially with all this stuff that's going on in it. That I'm surprised you guys have not gotten spoiled in it too.
I have, which is why I want to watch it because of the spoilers. Because I didn't love. I heard this is the better version than honestly the original. So I do. So I heard a certain character shows up.
I can understand you
because I didn't grow up with it. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Brand.
Yeah.
On the other hand. There's no excuse.
There is, well, especially because he started too. So. he look like Richard says here. You'll better start watch tonight.
Yeah,
you're right.
And then you know what upsets me more is like he's bored one night and he has nothing to do,
and he watches Crisis
TV, and then he watches. What would you watch? Anime?
No, it was the DC
Crisis. It was
the Crisis.
DC Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yeah,
Crisis.
He's a big look. You heard it here. Brant's only a DC fan now. He does not like Marvel.
Sure,
he doesn't like Marvel at all.
That's not true. Oh,
yeah, for people who actually haven't watched the show in a long time, Brant is a very big Marvel fan. So. And that's why Mike is taking.
Can't you tell?
That's true.
Don't come back until you've watched them. See, even the people are backing me up. Look, I'm even wearing a shirt tonight, man.
I would hope you're wearing a shirt tonight.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
No, you're
moving on to Scarlet Witch.
Really? Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to some more X-Men.
Yeah. So, Brent, you marked this down because I know you watched all of X-Men 97. So you need to tell us your thoughts on Lore, the new Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. So she's an older character from I forget what series she was, but she's like a dark version of Scarlet Witch, and now she's back, and she's like the version of Scarlet Witch that Scarlet Witch is afraid to become. So it's I've really enjoyed the stuff that's been going on in the Scarlet Witch and Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver books and all that. I think the stories there have been really fun, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what this does to her and like what challenge this presents for her. So, and it's a cool design for the character too.
Do you know one of the episodes has a reference to Man of Steel in X-Men?
Okay.
You have to let us know which one. I did not know
telling
that.
you anything because he's got to watch it.
No spoilers.
And then when he gets to a certain point, he's gonna be like, "Man, Mike was right."
But then he's gonna be like, "I was worth the wait."
There you go.
He's like, it was worth it all.
There's only like 2 episodes left before the season's over.
I was gonna ask how many episodes are left.
Yeah.
So you know what? He's got a stockpile now. Why catch up now? He's got to now binge it all. He's got to wait 2 weeks.
If I don't have this watched by next week, Mike's gonna
yeah.
Be like, I'm done. Throw the mic down.
I didn't say anything though for like a week.
Yeah.
And you notice how he's been so silent about it. He didn't say anything.
No, he wanted to keep it on their radar. He knew.
I honestly forgot all about it. I really did.
God.
I did.
This is a show I actually go out of my way for watching. Like, I will literally not edit a video to watch this show. I'll watch it in my car if I have to, because it's that good.
Okay.
There you go, Brent. You gotta tonight. No other work matters.
You never go to sleep, so you might as well just watch it tonight. They're only.
Do you want me to just leave right now and just go?
No, you need to
message you guys later. Just be like,
he's like,
no,
Mike,
I watched.
I'll just stay on camera with you after the show is over and make sure you're watching it. That's what I can do.
We do have a question from Infamous Mike Manhattan. Did you guys already talk about what you got for Free Comic Book Day? No, we're getting there. I have my haul.
It'll be after the news, guys.
Yeah, which we're getting there. So next up is about the X-Men. So more solo series for the X-Men. I thought this was interesting. Not because of the previous conversation, but no, I thought this was an interesting topic because that's kind of what I've always wanted from the X-Men. I think Mike has talked about it differently. He's like, oh no, I don't want solo series, but I feel like I've seen the X-Men teams. I've seen them 20,000 times. The thing I haven't seen as much is the solo titles, and I think they are interesting characters individually. I'm not saying every solo series is great, but I think there's opportunity for them to be fun. So, I think
if you do solo series for X-Men characters, it needs to be miniseries. I just don't think these characters.
Kitty Pryde solo series. I can see it working out. She goes to Japan. She does some ninja stuff. Lockheed's there. I think you could have.
And then Lockheed and her have popcorn together and
fun series,
and, you know, and that's that.
All right, Kitty
If
Pryde.
she's doing anything, because you know she
could be phasing.
She might be not doing anything after this.
Yeah.
After this, because she's not in any book, right? Or no, she is in a book.
No, she is. She's in.
She's in that one book.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in. True. Yeah, she's in the upcoming.
But after this week's X-Men, you know, she's.
You're right. That's what
I think everything is gonna be. Everything will be relaunched and rebooted in the next. I keep forgetting when the next series is launching, but the new Gail Simone stuff. I don't know what month it is, but this is ending.
July? I think it's July.
I'm thinking, July sounds right.
Yeah. We got a comment from Mark. I didn't.
Whoa, Black Spiders. Listen, he's saying, "Shame on you people, friend. It's not me. It's
only
Brent.
It's not even me either.
That I'm going to forgive because she's not. She's not from that timeline.
Not from that timeline. I'm from an alternate universe.
Yeah, she's not there.
No, I'm not. I look. There's nothing we can say, but
I can tell you though this, like, I feel like this show, because of this show, this is the way people want X-Men to be in the comic books. Truly.
And I'm curious, and we'll talk about the free comic book day book too, because I'm curious to see like where they're taking it in the future. But yeah, I mean, Brant, with the solo series, you on the board with Mike, you're on the board with me. Where you want this? You want a Kitty Pryde eating popcorn?
Oh, Kitty Pryde eating popcorn. I'll read that, but I'm actually in the middle because, like, I understand because like a lot of the solo X stuff isn't really that great, and traditionally, like historically, it's not been that great, and that's my problem with it. Like, if it's just going to be these throwaway things, but then again, we've seen like we talked about like the Executioner stuff, and different ones have been really fun. So
Dazzler.
Dazzler. So
and I'm not even being sarcastic about that.
No, I agree with both of you on that one.
That's still at the end of the day, in a way, like a group one. It's still a group.
Yeah.
It's still a
group.
Well,
no, I'm thinking about the original Dazzler. The original Dazzler was 70 to 80 issues. Like,
that's not going to happen though in this day and age, and you know that too.
If Taylor Swift ends up in Deadpool 3 as Dazzler, we're getting a solo Dazzler series.
But I mean, 10 issues now, based on that news that came out this week too from Marvel, going to approve those 10 issue series instead of like 4 or 5 now. So that's good.
Which is good. I think it needs to be that, you know?
Right. I agree. So, if they're good stories, good creative teams, and the characters are interesting enough, I'm down for it. But if it's just, a cash grab and it's not fun, then I'm against it. So,
just like the Last Storm series, guys, like, remember that? Like, come on. That wasn't that great, right? And you always get your staples, like you always get the Wolverine, solo series. You always get that. And then you've had multiple Jean Grey books.
Sure.
So there's been your few. You've had X-23, who's had her own book as well. It's just a matter of like, okay, are you going to do a Cyclops, a Colossus? We've seen Nightcrawler before. We actually just had one recently, so we'll see.
We will. And next up is Sacrificers gets a new artist, which I thought was I dropped Sacrificers, but what I thought was interesting about this, it's an indie comic that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, did it say why?
I think it's a guest artist. If I read
it
for 2 issues,
it's that never happens in indie comics, at least in like the image. Like, look, I've seen Kickstarters do it. I've seen, but like, it's the conversation I think we had last week about Saga, where Brian K. Vaughan, or maybe just me and Mike talked. Me and Mike talked a lot, I think, off the show, because I'm thinking about this conversation that maybe didn't happen on the show. But we were talking about Brian K. Vaughan doing Saga, and that feeling, the reason it's always so late is because he's said the most important thing in the world to me is to my family and working with Fiona Staples. And obviously there's the big delays, but it's constant the same artist. And with image books in general, that tends to happen. I can't think of another image comic that, especially a popular one, that changed artists in the middle, even as a guest artist.
Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head either. It's crazy. But looking at as far as the art style itself goes, I mean, they showed, some black and white pages, and I think it at least complemented it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same, obviously, but
it'll be all right. I think who knows what maybe the person who had another project going on, something was happening.
Yeah.
Could be anything, so we'll see.
I want to comment on these two. I didn't know about Rat Queens. That's one that changed artists. Transformers changed artists. That's different to me.
That is true.
Because it's an IP. It's like Power Rangers changing artists. Like it's an IP series. I'm more talking.
It was one person doing both things.
Yeah, exactly.
So
go on.
It's like one of those things where he agrees to do the opening arc, But he says, okay, now I need somebody else to do the artwork on there.
Yeah. How do I do all this?
You can't, he that's a lot to ask, for somebody to always do writing duties and art duties. That just no one can ever keep up with all that.
Yeah. And so, but what also is interesting, I think that's modern indie comics now, because their indie comics have become even not more popular than Marvel and DC, but they're getting so high on that level that they have to be consistent. They have to be out monthly. They can't get those delays because they are competing against Marvel and DC more than ever now. So yeah, you guys weren't on, if I can recall, Kat, but I really can admit to being wrong as well. For which I don't for this, maybe for the guest artist thing, but all right, let's move on to Power Rangers. Speaking of, there will be more Power Rangers, so that's something we were worried about.
That was another thing we were talking about. Kat.
Yeah,
it's the Power Rangers thing.
We really had a good conversation after the show that maybe we should have just pressed record on. But yeah, no, Power Rangers. It felt like it was ending. And then now they're just kind of rebooting it, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I mean, I was really shocked that they were ending it. So I'm happy to see more Power Rangers.
We were like, oh my God, are they actually getting rid of Power Rangers? And then we're like, who's going to pick that up? And why would they end it? But yeah, it just sounds like a reboot.
It was so weird to hear that they were done with them. It was like, really? They're doing
what happened there?
So many good things with Power Rangers, but.
And it seemed like they were selling the book. It seemed like, especially at cons and like those specialty covers were in the Kickstarters were doing well. So that's why I was really surprised. Mr. Negative says, yeah, Radiant Black has definitely suffered for not using a guest artist with huge breaks they have right now. I don't know if that's the artist. I do think it's the having to write and draw 2 books. I don't know if it has to do. I just think it has to do with the way they're formatting things right now.
Yeah, where they're doing the A and B story in separate issues. Yeah.
All right. Last news piece here is the Ultimate Spider-Man teases Ultimate Doc Ock. What I thought was interesting about the photo, actually, let me screen share it because I thought it was cool. So let's do window here. So what was interesting with this is we have the Osborns. We have Gwen and Harry. And we actually weren't on last week, so we could kind of talk about the issue. Gwen feels really evil in that last issue. So now seeing these guys together, it's like, oh, where is this going?
Yeah, it's definitely. I didn't expect this like little connection here to have Otto like working for Harry and Gwen being like not even just evil, but like cunning, like just I don't know.
Like,
just
seems like she's the manipulative one, the one pulling the strings behind everything,
right?
And then like Harry's kind of like, okay, I'll do it, whatever you say. Like she's the mastermind. It feels like.
I also want to answer Parker Luck. I meant that you guys weren't on last week. You are correct on that. Thank you for correcting us. We're talking about 2 weeks ago. That feels like last week. We were not on last week. But yeah, the Gwen stuff, we'll see where it goes. But obviously we're loving Ultimate stuff. So see what happens there. Do you think Ultimate Gwen Stacy's evil? Yeah.
That's what we're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
If she's not evil, she's definitely got some kind of ulterior motive going on.
Yeah,
at the very least.
Something's gonna be happening there. All right, before we get into free comic book day stuff, I got some Kickstarters, and then we'll jump into our free comic book day topic, and we'll go into our big books. But real quick, I got screen share here. Let me screen share. Let's see. We got Witches of Oz. I am still screen sharing. Which is. We have about 8 days left of that one. It's doing really well. If you like Wizard of Oz, it's what happens after, and we get to see Glinda and the Wicked Witch fall in love. So hopefully guys could go check that one out. But if you're not into the romance type books or fantasy books, we also have a slasher murder mystery, The Last Case of Devin and Taylor. What happens after you solve the case? What happens when you figure out who did the murder? And the real question is why. So if you like Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, this is kind of like a twist on that. So go check those out. I'll have the link in the description for both, so you guys can go check it out. We're going to talk about Free Comic Book Day. So, Mike, you're the only one who actually went to Free Comic Book Day. Me and Brant will explain. So, Brant, first you, and then I'll say why I wasn't at Free Comic Book Day, and then we'll actually hear Mike's adventure at Free Comic Book Day. You didn't go.
Yeah, I did not go. I wanted to go, but we had been running nonstop for 2 weeks. Like every single day, we had been just out and doing stuff. And when it came to the day, I woke up really late, like afternoon, and Lisa was not really wanting to go anywhere. She was willing to, and I was just like, I didn't want to go alone. And we just kind of called it. I had already pre-ordered some of the books from DCBS, all the ones that I wanted. So I was just like, okay, I'll get what I can later, and for now, I'm just going to chill at home because the shop that I really want to go to is on the other side of San Antonio because that's where all the big stuff was happening. It's going to take me like an hour longer to get there, so I was just like, okay, I'm going to chill at home.
I wanted to chill at home and not watch X-Men.
Not watch X-Men. Thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I was also not watching X-Men. I went to Fan Expo Philly this weekend, so we were tabling over there. So I was not in the same state as my comic book store. And when you're doing the convention, it's hard to go to a comic book store in the middle of it. So I had my mom actually, she picked up my comics in the last couple of years. I had a friend pick it up, but they actually went with us to the convention, so my friend was not available to do that. But yeah, no, it was weird not to go because I miss doing like signings and going there, but I got the books and my store is great with that to put everything to the side. And I read half of them today, so I did not have a chance. I read all the big ones so we could talk about it. But yeah, no, I missed it. I want to really next year do not a con and do the store and do a signing, or just go to the store would be nice because it's been I think like 2 or 3 years because it's been 3 years because last year I went to like a con library situation, and then the year before that I didn't go to my local store. I went to a store in Long Island to do a signing, and then the year before that is when I did a signing at my store. So that was my Free Comic Book Day. But
yeah, it's been 2 years since I've been. Last year I couldn't go because we had to move, and so we were in the middle of packing and everything during Free Comic Book Day, and the year before that is the last time I went. So
yeah, it always sucks when you can't go though. You know what I'm saying? And then like you
oh,
said,
yeah.
you had a shop, Brant, where you wanted to go and you couldn't go. That sucks. And for me, last year I actually went, but I went to a store that's not my local comic shop because my daughter had a dance competition. Funny story is this year my daughter also had a dance competition in the same place, but the schedule was different to where I didn't have to go till later on. So I was able to go to my comic shop and go to Free Comic Book Day. But since I did a preview video for them, they gave me all of the Free Comic Book Day books ahead of time, which was cool.
Nice.
Did I get a chance to read all of them? No, I read probably the big books. The big ones to be expected. But there was quite a few good ones in there. Now for Free Comic Book Day itself, it was cool that I got to go to my shop and they had a lot of new stuff out. Obviously you got to fill the shop with stuff so people can buy things. And so they had a lot, like I bought a lot of X-Men stuff. They had a lot of Spider-Man stuff. They had some slabs there. They usually have like 20% off of all their trades, which is cool. And, mystery boxes and all that other stuff. So it was a good time. And then when I got to the dance competition, me and my son still had like an hour. So I was like, oh, let me go check. And the same thing, the store that I really wanted to go to was just too far away. I wouldn't have time to actually go there. And so I went to the same store that I went to last year. And just like last year, like their Free Comic Book Day was shitty. It was just like, go to the table, pick 5 books that you want. And they didn't even have all the books, right? There was no special sales. There was nothing going on. There was just people there, and that was it. And I was disappointed. And I wanted to find some books to buy, but their internet like doesn't work in their building. So like when you go to it's just like I'm trying to get a price of comics to make sure I'm not overcharged for them. And I couldn't even check prices on them because my app wouldn't load, the internet wouldn't load. And I remember that from last year. I'm like, man, why did I come back here? I'm like, that sucks. You know, so
yeah,
I didn't go ahead.
No, I was gonna add the one I went to a couple of years ago. It was kind of that same situation. It was just like books on the table, didn't have all of them, all that kind of stuff. And the one I wanted to go to was the same store, but it was the bigger location. And they had a video up on Facebook this year, and they had a line since like 8 o'clock in the morning that was like down the whole shopping center. And it was like, man, even if I got there, it would have probably been too crowded to even like move or get in by the time I got there. So
right.
So
anyway, go ahead.
We have go on. No, go.
This comment. I try to be polite and respectful and positive when making comments on anyone's videos, live streams, but Mike interrupting Kat while responding to my comment, therefore kicking it off, it upsets and hurts.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. We didn't.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sometimes the flow of the show is just like three people talking at the same time. It's not really for us. It's not cutting off. It's just we all have different ideas. But we could go back to see where your comment was. Yeah, we forgot to go back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go back to see where your comment was. Let's see. I didn't make it to Free Comic Book Day this year. Instead, I saw Fall Guy with my dad. In my opinion, a 5-star movie. Hope everyone had an awesome Free Comic Book Day and weekend. I have not seen Fall Guy, but thanks for leaving the comment. Appreciate it.
That's the Ryan Gosling movie, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I still have to see I want to see that. I want to see the new Zendaya movie Challengers. We're gonna go see it tomorrow, but the week is just a bit packed, so I've not been able to see that. Those are 2 movies I wanted to see this weekend. Well, we got a couple more comments here. Mr. Negative said, yeah, my shop is too small to do deals. They just have books on tables for free. I still miss some books. And then we got Joseph who says, Mike, Kat, and Brant, I know it's kind of a wide-ranging question, but who's one of your personal favorite comic book writers going nowadays? So current writers going on right now.
Mine is going to be Joshua Williamson.
Yeah,
that's Joshua Williamson and then Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah,
I would agree with both of those, and Jed McKay.
Jed McKay, yeah, I would say Jed McKay's up there. And I would say, what's his name? Jeremy Adams, who writes Green Lantern.
Yeah, agreed.
I go Jeremy Adams. Yeah, I think Jeremy Adams, every book I've read has just been completely consistent. I agree with Joshua Williamson. He's really solid. Honestly, yeah, everything you've kind of stated. I'm trying to think if there's any like books we're forgetting, but I think those are, I mean, there's obviously some great writers out there, but like from the big 2, that's where I would go to. So
it's hard because sorry, Kat, it's just like, you know, and then when you look at a particular writing, maybe one book, doesn't make him like the best writer of all time. No, but he or she might be writing the book that is standing out. Like Ultimate Spider-Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have that too. So, you know, it's Hickman. So
yeah, exactly. Because like Hickman, you're like, oh man, yeah, I don't love all the books he writes, but then like this Ultimate Spider-Man's been really good. But like, but speaking of, let's go into some of the bigger books that came out for Free Comic Book Day. So the books I got, but I didn't get to read. Like I got Flash Gordon just because I wanted to see what's up with that. Some of the Mad Cave stuff. I got some Boom stuff. I didn't get to read that. I didn't get to read Marvel Voices, but the things I did read. What I thought were the big ones were the Energon stuff, obviously, Spider-Man, Ultimate Universe, Absolute Power, Blood Hunt, issue 1, and then Teenage Mutant Turtles I thought was going to be like for the future stuff, but it kind of is, but it is. I don't know who this character is. So I was like, I don't know if this sold me on this.
I didn't read it yet. Yeah.
I didn't either.
Go on, Brent.
I was going to say I flipped through it and I was like, yeah, this probably isn't something I absolutely need to read yet. So yeah, go ahead.
Ryan Parrott, I love. Melissa Flores, I think, is also another really great writer, very consistent writer.
Agreed.
So Those are all good ones. But yeah, I don't know if we want to just jump into some of them. I will say I was surprised by the X-Men story. I genuinely, I know, I never know how to pronounce it. Energon or Energon.
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 I just let it go.
Energon.
I always just call it the Transformers books. Look, I only read one of them, so I could pronounce it wrong. Yeah, no, this I like the X-Men story probably the most because I was like, oh, this is like what I liked about it is that it felt grounded because it was going back into like the world and seeing this mutant that wasn't part of the X-Men. I'm like, oh, this feels new, but it also feels like very old school of like trying to find mutants. So I enjoyed that. I like the Transformers story, but there's always, and I always say this, there's always this kind of like hand where it's just like, I'm just not as invested in that world. So I like the action. I like this villain versus hero thing. I like where it's going, but I can't be like, wow, that's crazy. Robot number 1 did that to robot number 2. But I thought that was a solid book, though. I think if you're a fan of the Energy Pajama universe, then you will enjoy it because it was a really good sampler of everything. So I enjoyed that. I think the one I was most disappointed for was probably Blood Hunt. And no, Blood Hunt included the X-Men. So
no, the Blood Hunt one I thought was pretty cool.
Absolute Power was really short.
No, the Absolute Power was the one that I was disappointed with.
So Brant liked it, and you were disappointed, and I also was disappointed.
I agree it was too short, but I liked it. I was more disappointed by it, and I haven't read the Blood Hunt X-Men one yet, but I was more disappointed by the Ultimate Universe one.
Me too. I was disappointed with that because Absolute Power, what I liked about it was that at least it tied into like anything you've ever been reading with DC, where it's like, oh wow, this actually feels like an event. Spider-Man, I'm just like, I'm bored. I know he was like on that date. I was just like really bored. And then the Ultimates was a side of the Ultimate Universe I just don't care about. Like, just give me Spider-Man. So it reminded me a lot of that the other book that came out right before Spider-Man, the setup book. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. But Absolute Power, Mike, did you like that more or less than the Spider-Man one, which I know we're all Spider-Man fans.
I liked the Ultimates. I wasn't like the Spider-Man one wasn't needed.
Right.
Like, who cares about that story? The Ultimates I thought was kind of cool because they're still recruiting people on their team. So I thought that was kind of cool how they wound up recruiting Johnny Storm and they had to go through some pretty good lengths to actually get that. And that's obviously setting up something to come. And then you had the Venom War introduction in that end of that book as well. Which again, that's more of like a teaser sampler of things. So I didn't look too much into that for 3 separate stories. And, you could say the same thing for Energon, but Energon just felt more impactful to me. Like, it actually answered questions that you had when you started the series, where where it was like Absolute Power. You already knew this was coming out. You already, like, all it was kind of like, okay, if you haven't been following DC Comics, we're having an event coming out. It's called Absolute Power. This is the person that's in charge. This person's giving the other guy a little bit of a tour. He winds up getting killed. There's something bad that's going to happen to the heroes. And that was pretty much it. And then there's your profile page. So I wasn't like really overly excited about it. And I think what it comes down to for it is that I really am sick of Amanda Waller. And I think a lot of people would agree with me on that, because she obviously at the end of that, was it this issue? Was it that issue where she's talking to Brainiac?
No, I think that was the Superman Brainiac special.
Oh,
it's Superman Brainiac special.
I'm getting them mixed up.
See what I'm saying? Yeah. She's everywhere. You're right.
Yeah.
So it's like, she is a human being. Any single villain out there can destroy her, and nobody does anything about it. And it's so powerful. Like, it's so weird. Like, I just don't get it, But I don't know. I wasn't overly excited about it. But does it make me not excited? Am I not excited for the event? I'm excited for the event. I want to see what it happens. I just felt for that Free Comic Book Day issue, it just wasn't my favorite out of the all.
That's the problem with Free Comic Book Day in general, in my opinion. I don't think I could get excited for anything that's a sampler book. It's just like, it's a free book, cool. It gives you a little teaser. I know there was a story, I forget which one that you guys really, really liked. That was like a Spider-Man story that led to an event that you guys didn't like. But I remember I was like, it was fine. Yeah, there's never been a Free Comic Book Day book that I'm like, wow. But the whole point of Free Comic Book Day is to get other people interested in these books but then also that's hard too, because Absolute Power in general, like they have the profile, but it's like, it's so ingrained with what's going on in DC right now. So and I know they have other books. They have like the YA books that they release. And then, Marvel had the young voices or whatever, but I don't know, Free Comic Book Day is hard in that regard. Like, how do you tease something and get people excited? And then if you miss Free Comic Book Day and you're like, well, I missed that story. Now I can't read it. So it's just it's a difficult balance. I thought the books were solid enough. I wasn't really disappointed with any of them. But I was pleasantly surprised by X-Men, because that one I was just like, oh, we've been really waiting to see what the visuals are going to look like. What is the story going to be like? So I was like, oh, at least this gives I think a teaser in a way also that new readers could jump in, but also teaser for people who want to really read this. It's like, I don't know. I felt like that was the best balanced story.
Yeah, the art was really good in that. And I liked the story because it had Jubilee. And I liked that the X-Mansion was getting taken over. And then, of course, you got the traditional, let's rag on the little mutant. And then Jubilee gets pissed off, and you see that they're under like strict protocol. Like they got to keep low profile and things like that. And then you get that teaser at the end, like there is some mutant inside that big gigantic cell. And who is that? Who is that mutant? So I don't know who that could be. It could be somebody normal that's just in a big ass cell. Could be somebody like Jean Grey. Could be someone like Professor X. It could be anybody, Magneto. But it's curious who they have locked up in there.
Yeah, it's a cool build up. And obviously that wasn't the whole issue though. There was like a blood hunt thing that I did not care about. So it's a hard, because it's just like, oh, I like that little 5 pages I read of X-Men. But the rest of the issues, like we'll talk about blood hunt obviously, but all right. That's I think it for Free Comic Book Day. So I'm going to pass it on to Mike to jump into the comics from this week.
Yeah, let's do it.
As my machine
let me
sings.
dive into there. So there wasn't like a shit ton of new comics this week that were great, because it was like an off week plus with Free Comic Book Day. Sure. So let's talk about the new event, and we have Blood Hunt issue 1.
Woo.
So I liked it. I thought it was
I knew you would. I knew
I
you
did
would
too,
like
actually.
I knew it.
It's not the best thing that I've ever read on the planet.
Right.
But don't get me wrong. It was action packed. It felt like the heroes got caught off guard based off of this event that actually happened. They're being overrun by vampires. And then at the end, you're surprised that, that Blade is the one that's behind all this so far, we think. And the Avengers got their ass beat. Now, when you compare the two comics between the Red Band edition and the normal edition, there was only a couple added pages, and there was some extra, gore and blood in it. And listen, if you're gonna buy one, just buy the Red Band edition and just get the full experience. That's the way
that's what I did. This is difficult because, again, the event, and we talked about this in the past, and I, reading it, I feel the same way. I think the event was built for this Blade movie that never came out. Like, Blade needs to be in the comics because Blade's going to be in the movies. People are going to look for Blade. They're like, fine. And then something I think is very different from, let's say, an Absolute Power or Superman Brainiac, which we'll talk about. It feels like an event for the sake of an event. It doesn't really feel like anything's going to affect these characters. It's like it's an action blockbuster thing, which is fine. That's not, I think those comics should exist. It's just not for me. I like story a little bit more, but this, and I like a good gimmick. I think the gimmick was interesting. That was probably the best part of it. It's like, oh, let's see how deadly Doctor Strange is going to get stabbed or whatever. But it just didn't give me literally, there was nothing here that I said, I can't wait for that next issue. Or there's literally no storyline that I care about.
Well, it's because it's the first issue. It's gonna gut punch you right in the face right from the start, and then you're gonna get into the story going forward. That's basically what this first issue
See, but
was.
I think a first issue should have a hook. I think it should give you something to want to get issue two, not just ambiance. Like, and again, action, but it's just like even the cliffhanger. The cliffhanger is just someone dies, kind of. And how many times has Doctor Strange been stabbed? You know, it's just like we've seen it a billion times. So it's just like it just felt so weightless to me.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Superman Brainiac. It's almost the same.
But there are character beats in Superman Brainiac. There's the people getting their powers taken away. There's people teaming up with each other, like Supergirl and Connor, who you don't normally get to see. There's the opening scene of Superman Brainiac. Not this mini the anthology thing, but the opening scene of the first issue is just Lois having this really good day, and then like, oh, this is an important day to her. But what's the important day? There's like a hook. There's a story there. There's just something like just as small as what is Lois like? Why does Lois love this day? Is a story to me.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. I just feel like in very many ways it's very similar though. Like, look what happened to the Avengers. The Avengers got destroyed. The superheroes in Superman wound up losing their powers. It's very similar. You got introduced to villains that you haven't seen before, and the Avengers didn't know how to handle this. So in very, very many ways, it's very similar. The only difference is, yes, you were introduced to the super family, and yeah, Lois's day off. But you know, as much as you liked it, there's probably people that are like, I've already seen this before 100 times, you know, because
Sure.
I know who Lois is. Do I care about her day off? Do I care about the 1,000 people that are in the Superman family? I totally get where you're coming from. Don't get me wrong. I'm just playing devil's advocate
No,
here. You
for
know what I'm
sure.
saying?
And I hate events in general. I think
Right.
we've all
Yeah, we know
stated this
that.
many
Yeah.
times. So I think for me, the reason why DC or even, Absolute Power, I think is a good example where it's like, at least there's threads. There's like the failsafe stuff that's been building up for 2 years. And something that we've talked about with the Venom event from a few years ago is that I was so pleasantly surprised by that event because it all connected. It all felt like, oh, this is something that was from 30 issues ago. This is something important. I like it like Titans Beast World. The reason why we really like that one is just like it's still playing a part in Titans, the events of Beast World, and it was a solid book.
Right.
I'm just not feeling that for Blood Hunt. Well, I get the next issue, depends on the week. But I want to let's hear Brand's thoughts.
Yeah, so I do think there's some connectivity there, but it being that Jed McKay is writing this, right? So the whole Moon Knight run, the whole series,
Which I
and now
haven't read.
Vengeance of Moon
So.
Knight, right? And now Vengeance of Moon Knight, they have been battling vampires. There's been this vampire sect that has taken over their town, and he's created this team to basically defend all the people against these vampires. And it's like this whole like organized crime syndicate of vampires that have been running rampant in New York. It's spilled over into Miles Morales a little bit, spilled into a couple of other places. So I think in that way there is that connective tissue.
Mhm.
But like you said, not a lot of people are reading Moon Knight, so that's the problem there. But at the same time, I also appreciate like they brought back like Silhouette, who taps into the Dark Force in Night Thrasher. They've been sprinkling these Dark Force users in, and that's where like that Dark Force power started erupting in all these Dark Force users that blocked out the sun.
Right.
So I think they've strategically placed these characters in different places to be able to do this. So again, there's a little bit more of that connective tissue for me. And I don't know. I like the way that it was a surprise to everyone, like you said, Mike.
Right.
I think you said earlier, where they were not expecting this, and they thought, okay, we've got a little bit of a lull, but then all this goes crazy, and now they've got to deal with these vampires that have been a threat here and there to different groups, different, the X-Men, Avengers, whatever, but they've never been like this massive threat like this. And now, as we've learned that Dracula is not going to be involved with this, and Blade's where he is in this. It's like, what's the impetus for this? And I think those questions are the interesting things for me.
Well,
so
see, if you read the what's it called? The Blood Hunt free comic book day issue, Dracula is in this. and he's recruiting Blade's daughter to help save the world. So
this will probably be part of that mini series that comes out tomorrow.
The Dracula Blood Hunt one,
yeah. Which I actually am going to read because I liked the daughter. I think she's cool.
Like you said, Brant, the Moon Knight series, like I read Moon Knight first, and you saw what happened to the Shroud, how he was introduced, and then he becomes part of this event that happens, and he becomes part of blocking the sun. So I like how Jed MacKay did that. And so now, based off of how he's tying in things, it's like, man, maybe now I need to read the Jed MacKay books at least, because they're the ones that are going to tie in the most to this event. So you got Vengeance of Moon Knight, you have Avengers, you have this event as well, and Doctor Strange, which obviously you're going to want to read because of what happened to him at the end of this issue. Yeah. So I do think there's some mystery there. There's a lot of questions. It's like, why did this happen? Who are these characters? Why is Blade the way he is? Like there's intrigue there. Again, it's just like you said, Kat, you're not always into events, and if it doesn't catch you right from the start, you tend to usually drop them.
Yeah, because there's so many comics out there too.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. I always love giving them a shot because sometimes, honestly, at least once a year, they do surprise you. There's usually an event where you're like, wow, I like that more than I expected.
Well, and what made Beast World so good was because there was so much good character emotion in there. You felt the pain and the suffering between the Titans and Beast Boy trying to do the right thing, and obviously the ramifications after the fact. And that's what made that whole series really good, in my opinion. All right. Let's move on. Brent and I read this one. So this is Space Ghost. This is issue 1.
I've heard good stuff about this one. I know nothing about Space Ghost.
Really good. This is like a Batman in space. It's just like he's dark. He's like a myth. People don't know if he exists, and then you get to see the introduction to the kids in this book as well. It's just really an overall just an introduction to the character in this world, and the artwork was phenomenal, and it was just a fun time. It was really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too, and obviously I have a history with Space Ghost, and I used to watch it like pre the talk show stuff, Coast to Coast or whatever it was.
I do remember seeing commercials of that.
Yeah,
on Adult Swim or whatever.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but the whole like mythos of Space Ghost is like you said, he's this mysterious character that's fighting crime in space, and he's got these 2 kids and this chimpanzee or creature with them, and you don't know any of his history, his origin, all that stuff. And we kick off right off the bat learning a little bit of the origin of Jan and Jace, which are the kids. And now, from interviews I've read with David, he's going to dive into like the origin of Space Ghost himself too, which I don't think has ever been told, or if it has, I missed it. But I'm really curious about that, like where he comes from and why he does this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's got such an interesting power set because he's like a Batman character. He uses tech, he uses these gauntlets, but he can become like intangible, like the Vision, and has power blasts, and he's just this really interesting, mysterious character.
Very cool. Yeah, it was a very cool book, and I think you can do a lot with that series.
For sure.
All right, so let's talk about our number 5. So, Kat, what was your number 5?
Mine was Superman House of Brainiac special. I think as anthologies go, it was a fun enough issue. I like the Perry Mayor thing going on. I thought that was good. I like the arc for that. Honestly, the Brainiac stuff was probably the thing I liked the least about it. Like I think the Mayor stuff, which actually was a chunk of the issue, was the most
it was most of it
part. Yeah. So I mean, solid enough. I think in another week, I don't know if this would have made my top 5, but I think for anthologies, if you're liking this event, I think it's worthwhile to pick up.
Yeah, I think it was good enough to give you an insight of what was going on, I think. And then like, yeah, you had the mayor story, which was fine. And then the end again with Amanda Waller talking down the Brainiac. I was like, come on, man. Like, that's when I have enough. Like, this is Brainiac. This is a guy that is the smartest thing that there is. He betrays everybody. And it's just like, well, I'm just going to study her. I'm not going to do anything right now, and it's just like, bro, just kill her.
I
Just
kind of
capture
like
her.
I kind of like that Amanda Waller just is not afraid of anybody. I kind of like that, though.
I don't mind it, right? But it's like, when is she going to get her moment? Like, when is she going to get that moment where it all catches up to her and she gets put away for a while? Why doesn't Brainiac capture her and stick her in a little freaking bottle?
I mean, at the end of this,
next issue.
I was at the end of this event, I would hope that that's where this is headed. Like, finally taking Amanda Waller down after all the chaos she's caused with the heroes. But we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, I like this for what it was too, and I thought it was interesting that the Council of Light that we've seen in like Young Justice and everything was in this version of it was Brainiac.
Yeah,
it was different Brainiac. So I thought that was kind of cool. So
yeah.
We have a question from Parker Luck. I have a great question about comic events. Do you think when an event happens, doesn't it take away from the character's ongoing arc, especially when you have the character everywhere already? Look, that's my biggest problem about events in general, is that a lot of times, like, whatever's going on in this event's not even affecting the main series, and everything will be put back. Nothing matters. And a lot of events are like that. There's some that aren't, and those I think are the best events. But there's a lot of events like the ones you just mentioned.
Right, exactly. And that is the main problem with them. I like the ones that have lasting effects on the world, and I like the ones that take the time to build up through all the characters involved prior to it. Like, I do think that the absolute power stuff has been built up in just about every book DC's putting out.
Yes.
So I think, my hat's off to them for doing that. Whereas with Blood Hunt, I don't think that's the case. I think they've built it up in some books, but not others. And so now everybody's all over the place, and the continuity's not really there. So.
I think, like you said, though, Brant, like we talked about it early, this was something that the superheroes did not prepare for, so they weren't ready for it.
Exactly.
So, like the reader, you're not ready for it, and you're thinking, okay, here we go. And the only book that is going to feel that makes sense is probably, again, Jed McKay's books. His are the ones that are going to tie in the most. Again, if it's written right, when you have these titles that are out there that connect to it and interfere with main stories, I think it can be done right, but it has to be written well. Like, we read it in Gang War, right? Most of the Gang War series were not that great. And I think a lot of us we did like Daredevil, though. The Elektra one,
Right.
But they just got to be written well. If they're written well, it's okay. But we just haven't seen too many of that as of late.
Right. Agreed.
Okay. So we got to do Brant's number 5, right?
Yeah. So mine's going to be X-Men. Again, it's a week. A lot of the stuff I read was just kind of stuff nobody else reads. So X-Men kind of by default, but I kind of liked, the whole conflict with, if I'm remembering what this issue actually was, because
there was a conversation between Laura and I forget who old Laura is with. Sync. There's normal Laura, the young Laura, and him talking, and then there's Kitty and Wolverine talking, and they have there's some action in this issue too. There were some good character moments, but I agree. Look, Brent, you're not wrong, man. Like, a week later, you're like, what's a week later, you're like, what's going on? You just don't really remember, because it wasn't that big of an issue besides the ending of there's no more X-Men situation, but also that feels really who cares, because we know where the X-Men is going.
True. You're at the point now where it's like Professor Xavier betrayed the humans in order for the mutants to live. And Kitty's angry, Wolverine's angry. Why would the professor do this? That's really the main part of the story, and the other
Yeah.
part is freaking MODOK, just like turning all the Orcus soldiers into like these crazy ass creatures.
Right.
The artwork was fantastic in the book, and I did like the action. I thought it was phenomenal. And just the detail that MODOK looked when he was getting beat up. It wasn't in my top 5, but it was there. It's like there just to have it. There's no real reason why this book exists anymore, though.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So, no, it's filler.
My earbuds cut out, so I missed most of what you said, Kat. But I was headed towards that Charles Xavier stuff is where I was going with that. But now that I'm thinking about it, I might have should have put Iron Man up just slightly above this one, but I don't know. They are what they are, but I enjoyed it.
I didn't even like Iron Man this time around as much.
It was okay, but I mean,
it was the same thing.
Yeah, it was. So I'm ready for the next stage of the X-Men.
Yeah, but I think everybody is at this point.
Like you said,
Infinite Mike Manhattan said Radiant Black is going to be in the Supermassive 2024 crossover because he's dealing with his own event. That's so weird. First of all, I hadn't even heard the Supermassive book was coming out, but like not having Radiant Black is interesting.
That is weird. Yeah.
All right. My number 5 is Space Ghost, so we talked about it.
Cool.
All right. So, and we talked about Brainiac, and so I'm very interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this one. Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh man,
Wade Wilson 3, whatever it's called, number 1.
Yeah.
Where?
What?
So
wait before I go on. What happened in this comic book? I am so lost in this.
I'm glad someone was. I think there's like a future version of Deadpool, right?
I don't even know. Like this was Wade Wilson 3 is what he called himself or something like that. This looked like the comic version of that Wolverine Origins movie where Deadpool and Wolverine fought in the
That's what I thought too.
That's what it reminded me of. It's like, why are we revisiting that? Nobody liked that.
And what's interesting, you guys said that because I wasn't sure where you're going to land with it. Because I was like, it's a really action-packed issue. Like I could see people enjoying that aspect, but I'm like, I was like, where's the World War III? And I kept waiting for it. And then obviously someone said it's Wade Wilson 3. So I was like, this is such a weird comic of like how, like, because obviously the movie's coming out again. The same thing as this Blood Hunt situation. Same thing here. It's just like movie's coming out. We have to have this. But it's like, do we?
This made no sense. I was so confused by this book. It was
like, but at one point Wolverine was in a bar, right? At the end.
Right.
And it looks like he got the crap beat out of him and he winds up getting captured. And then in the next scene, he's in his normal blue and yellow suit. And then that's when he goes and he's going after this Deadpool. I'm like, what just happened? I'm like, I felt really dumb. Like I felt really stupid that I could not understand what was going on in this comic. I thought the artwork was great. It looked awesome. The action was great. Even the narration, like when Wolverine was talking, was really cool. And the interactions in the beginning with Wade and Wolverine were fun. But then once you got like a few pages in after that first battle, I think it was with who was that character? Slade? I don't even know what it is.
Wildside or something.
Wildside, Wildside. I was like, then after that, it just got weird for me, and I just couldn't get it.
By the end of it, I didn't know if Deadpool was like pulling all the strings or he was used in this whole thing or why he was even there. I didn't know what was
going on. Is this only 3 issues? Is this literally like a mini series?
I mean, I think it is a mini series, but I don't know how many. But even the monologue, you were talking about the monologue, I even kind of felt like nothing was being said there. They were just kind of like spinning their wheels and trying to be artsy about it.
You got Deadpool talking. There's not gonna be really. I just like how they interacted with each other because again, yes, that's what Deadpool does, and Wolverine talks the way he talks, and I like that. But just the overall plot, you would think you would get an understanding of what the plot is, and I just didn't. I just didn't.
Sure.
I think they missed the boat on that.
So I think we're all gonna be skipping issue 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page for that.
All right. So now let's go to number 4. And Brand, I'll start with you this time. What's your number 4?
Mine was the House of Brainiac special.
Cool. All right, Kat, what's yours?
Mine was X-Men. So
that's funny.
My number 4 is Blood Hunt. So
okay.
All right. So we're moving along. I'm so curious about this one too.
Yeah.
Nightwing Annual Issue 1.
So this book had a lot of potential. It was like, oh, cool. I don't know much about this character, and it just went on and on and on and on, and I was just like, okay, there's just so much wordiness, and then they ended on a cliffhanger that the mom's still alive, and it was like, when's this gonna happen?
So my thing with that was this story up until the points of where Nightwing has just ended, like that's where you saw the mom, and then it was all the other stuff that just happened in the Nightwing books with the whole fear of jumping and all that when he was with Bea that whole time. Did it get to that point and we already read the most recent stuff?
Maybe that might be the point too.
I think that's maybe where they were going with that.
I don't know why they didn't just release it months ago. This
character though, it's like you went from a character that was completely forgotten and was part of just Rick Grayson's life to a person that somehow showed up in Dick's life once again, and you found out that she was her mom got killed supposedly. She wound up surviving an explosion from a boat, and she lived 3 days on shore someplace. She's able to escape a hospital. Then all of a sudden she goes back to the boat because she knows where that's at, steals a freaking computer. And then there happens to be pirates on board. Says, you're really good. Let's join a pirate. Then he's like, I need to figure out what's happening with my mom, so I can't join your little pirate clan.
This does happen all in one issue.
Then I'm going to become part of Spiral, and then Grick happens to be there. And then it's like, oh, hey, KG Beast is the one that possibly could have killed your mom, and it's the same person that got Rick Grayson in the head, and then she's like, okay, let me go hang out with him, and then they have the relationship. But
then they also talk about Barbara too, right?
Yeah.
Like the end of the issue is like, but he's also with Barbara, and that's all. There is like, again, I was kind of sold in the beginning because the art was good, and I was like, cool. Yeah. Let's like, I feel like she's been an interesting part of the art, and then I'm just like, what? Like I don't know. It was an annual for the sake of an annual, I guess.
I was excited for this story before I read it. Yeah, it's same thing, and it's like listening to you rattle all that off, Mike. I'm like, man, that was like a really convoluted backstory.
Yeah, it's I'm thinking like much, and it's not even done. Like it's just like. She goes out and then she's like, I'm going to live a normal life now. I'm going to put everything behind me. Then Nightwing's like, sorry, I got my memories back. I'm going to dump your ass. And she's like, well, I guess
she was not upset though. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's like, I'm going to be a pirate again. So it's just mean,
her backstory didn't need any of that. It was fine. Her just ending up being like in charge of the keep, and all that stuff. It didn't need any of that. No. And it made it so like their history together made it so empty to me. It's like, well, it was just all, she was a spy. She was like it wasn't even real. Who cares about that story now?
Tom Taylor also didn't write this one. No. So that was interesting too. So I don't know. It also makes me very curious where Nightwing's going after this, because I'm like, maybe this will be like what's gonna happen in the future. But I just like really think it's just kind of there, and it will never be picked up ever again.
Watch her show up and she's the one that kills Heartless, and
she's a new Nightwing.
Yeah. Oh God.
Nightwing dies and she becomes Nightwing.
I was like, when I'm reading it, I'm like, just stop giving me more stuff. Like it's just not needed.
I sat there, I think, for 45 minutes trying to read that book. I sat there because the trick is, because sometimes when you read a really wordy book, you kind of want to like go quickly with it if you're really not liking it. But this one tricks you because the beginning is kind of interesting. So you're like, ooh, let's see where it goes. And then as it goes along, you're like, oh, so that's why I was sitting for about 45 minutes being like, did I miss something? Like, what's going on?
Oh, man. I took breaks in between this one.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
it was one of my last books I read. I literally think it was one of the last books I read. I'm like, oh my.
I was like,
have been the last book I
just
read.
100 pages because that's what I was like. Felt like I was
like
reading.
it. Yeah. I think I read like half of it and then like at the beginning of my pile and then like put it back until the end. And it was like, man,
You're like, I know where this is going.
Oh man, it was so much.
So funny. All right, let's go to our number 3. What's your number 3, Kat?
Mine's Ghost Lore. Same reasons. I've been enjoying it. I like the dynamic between the father and daughter. There's some interesting mythos going on. There's this like crew that saw these ghosts that was like a cult. They all died. And then now there's new people who want this father-daughter gang to be like the new cult. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. It's a cool series, but I could also understand why it's not for everybody. So it's like my little thing I like to read. And maybe someone else's little thing they like to read.
Very cool. What about you, Brent?
Space Ghost.
Cool.
So I already talked about it.
That's your little thing you like to read.
Mine was Moon Knight, actually.
Nice.
I thought it did a very nice job at balancing everything that was going on. Because you finished the whole, okay, Shroud is this dark Moon Knight, and he's actually just like that erased from the picture because of the Blood Hunt event. And I thought that was brilliantly done. And then you get the other side of the story with 8-Ball in there on him having a therapy session and trying to maybe not necessarily be a hero, but he looked up to Moon Knight on how he handled things, and he wants to no longer be that bad guy or sit in the background, and he wants to do something about certain things, and really appreciated that story. And it gave something a little more to a character that's like a D-list character. I thought that was really good. And then of course the artwork is always brilliant in this comic book. So great stuff here. This was a great issue.
Yeah, it was. It's just outside my top 5. Go ahead, Kat.
No, I was just going to say we had a really kind comment here. It's always great to see the three of you together talking comic books. Great synergy. It always feels like something's missing when one of you are out, but I understand busy lives. No, we really appreciate that. Yeah, we feel the same way. We actually say that every single time after the show when it's just the two of us. It's like, it doesn't matter which two it is. It's just like, it is a good show, but I miss this person because it's an even better show when all three of us are on. Because you get the balance. And one thing I really enjoy is Blood Hunt was a great example. It's just we always say this when we disagree. It's kind of a fun conversation, even if you're playing devil's advocate, even if it's not your favorite book. It's fun to get like different perspectives. So and also we know each other kind of inside and out, so we also know what like I could read Blood Hunt and be like, no, I know Mike's gonna like this more than I do. We also know each other's taste.
And we know that Kat's not gonna like it from the start either. But we always like to mess with each other. It's it's all in fun,
It's so funny because we have a private chat that we talk to each other all week, and like if Mike reads something he knows I'm gonna like, he's like, Brant, you gotta read this book, and I'll be like reading a book and I'm like, Kat's gonna hate this. So gonna hate this. But it's just we know each other so well when it comes to that.
So Moon Knight was a good book. So
it really was. I enjoy Moon Knight. It's a good series. And like I said, it tied in really well to this event, especially with the Shroud stuff that you mentioned. And I liked 8-Ball. Like at the end, he ran off to be a hero, which I thought was kind of fun. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right. So now we're going to move on to when we talked about X-Men. Number 2. So, Kat, what was your number 2?
I was pleasantly surprised by this. The Incredible Hulk issue 12. This has the Strange Academy in it. This issue is a lot more solid for me because there was more of a vision. So they go to Strange Academy to see Dr. Voodoo to try to save Charlie, who's in this like doll, and that's pretty much the issue. But I'm like, this is a cool direction. It felt connected to the Marvel universe. So I just thought it was one of the stronger ones in a while.
I agree. This was just outside my top 5. I really like this. It much improved from the previous issues. I like how Hulk was like storming in there looking for Doctor Strange, and Strange is nowhere to be found, but he finds the next best thing. I was a little confused at the end I wasn't sure what Dr. Voodoo was doing. Was he extracting the Hulk from Banner's body?
Yeah, that's how I saw it. Is
and
that
did they wind up both going into the different dimension? Like, is that where they went?
I think
Banner
so.
woke up
like in his
coffin.
mind.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird. So I was a little confused by that, but the art is great. And again, even if the storytelling is not perfect, right? The artwork makes up for it, and you're just amazed by it.
Yeah. And again, I think the last few arcs have been very spin its wheel. So it was kind of nice to just get some continuation. But like you said, the art, and I think this was Klein, and he was back on the book. So that was nice too, which I guess is showing that you're going back to the main plot when he's back on the book.
Yes. Yep. All right. So next is Brant.
My number 2 was Spider-Woman, number 7, actually.
All right, I'm excited because we're gonna disagree.
Obviously, I knew that was coming.
I'm gonna be right in the
middle.
Okay,
there you go.
This has stayed the same grade for me for the past 3 issues now.
Has it really?
Yeah. See, I grade the books, so I gave it a C+.
Okay, fair enough. I can live with that. And Kat's gonna give it like a D.
I think I'm done, man.
Are you done, really?
Yeah, but I want to hear why you liked it first, and I'll tell you why I just liked it.
So first of all, I just like to change the scenery. I like her on the West Coast. I like, the whole opening scene where she's confused for She-Hulk and, gets in arguments with local citizens and all that stuff. I really like the design of this like D-list character, Zax.
Yeah,
how, that whole battle, and he looked better than he's ever looked ever in the history of comics. That's the best Zax has ever looked, and it was just a fun fight. Her fighting this would-be superhero team that's coming up, and at the same time, she's investigating all these shell companies and this Echidna thing, which I'm thinking leads back to Porcupine, which is her former nanny or whatever. So I think there's a tie in there, a connection that, and it's a kind of an obvious connection, but it's a fun connection. So I'm just kind of on board for that, and I'm excited to see where that takes her. So.
See, I looked at this cover.
Whoa, hold on.
Who's that girl?
Hold on. He didn't even mention the team.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting there too. That team. I thought they were going to be the whole issue. I'm like, I can't wait to see these guys. 3 pages of them. I'm like, oh, man. That's why I feel like this book is so close to being a good book. And that's why I get really frustrated where I'm like, this is really interesting. This is almost interesting, but let's leave you on this cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm on issue 7 already, and I haven't been like fully into it. And that's what's disappointing about this issue too.
Yeah, I agree. It leaves you like, it has the potential. It's like right there. Like Jessica is great in the comic when she is there and talking and dealing with situations. It's perfect. And then the story around it that surrounds it, it's not so perfect. Like, I liked what she was doing, like investigating things and finding out. And then the worst part was this group of characters that came out.
So up out of nowhere.
Like, who are you guys? Like, what are you? And I get it. Like, you want to leave that on a cliffhanger to maybe get those characters.
Don't have it on your cover.
Yeah. But then I was like, these guys look like a bunch of ripoffs, though. Like, you got Moon Squire, you got Titan, who's a Hulk, you got a Marvel Cadet boy, and then you got.
If you remember, they're the ones from the variant covers we saw months ago.
Right, and they were in Web of Spider-Man, supposedly, which I didn't remember, but they were in Web of Spider-Man. So look, cool, great, new characters, but just don't leave, like, give me substance. And same thing for Spider-Woman in general. It's like, you're saying, like, oh, that's a cool thread that could go to Porcupine. That's a cool thread that could happen with her son. And it's just like the whole 7 issues have been, where's my son? Oh, he's older now. Let me try to figure out what's going on here. But nothing has been happening. So it's just like, it's frustrating. And I say this every single time. I love Jessica. And I think her series have been so solid these last decade. And then I get this and I'm just like,
oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I have so many feelings about it. Which one?
And I get it. Now I'm laughing because you gave me flashbacks of those skits you used to do on YouTube.
My rants.
That's so funny, yeah.
But that's how I feel of it. It's like, it's almost a rant because it's just like, I wish it was bad because then it could just be like, I hate this book, but it's just like so just mediocre.
No, I get that.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I get where you're at, Brand, because I
Yeah.
like the scenes too where she's trying to fit in and she just has this really shitty day, and I
Mhm.
like that part of it. So it's got, and then there's other parts where it's not great, it's just like
Yeah.
spinning its wheels, and it's like I want some more meat to the story.
And I do agree with that. And I know
Yeah.
that I've liked this run better than both of you since issue 1. And it's definitely not as good as past series we've seen of her. I'm thinking of like the Dennis Hopeless one, and the one after that. I thought those were really solid books.
Yep.
So it's not quite to that level yet, but I'm still enjoying it. And I think as long as they throw some fun stuff in there for me, I'm still on board with it. But I completely understand where both of you are coming from with it.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, I'm gonna keep reading it, and I'm gonna keep. It's almost like She-Hulk for me. I'm gonna hope that it like gets better,
Right.
because I want to like it. Like I love Jessica, and she's one of those characters where I feel like she should have a book more often. And when it's there, I want to read it. I want to support it. But if it's not good, it's like, oh man, gonna have to drop it.
I think me and Jess are gonna go on a hiatus. We're going on a break.
Breaking
that
up
has
with
been
each other.
we are no, it's a break. It means we might get back together, but we are not going to be together right now.
We're on a break. It's like that Friends episode. Yeah,
exactly.
We're on a break.
We're on a break. It's I'm Ross and she's Jennifer Aniston, Rachel. But yeah, I'm gonna give a couple of issues where I'm not reading it unless you guys are like Cat. Spider-Woman got back, or like Porcupine shows up. I think I'm because like he's cool. Like I haven't seen him in a while, so I feel like maybe that would bring me back to the comic. But 7 issues, I think that's enough.
Dusty, you want to go back a little bit? We did talk about Blood Hunt, probably a good, I don't know, half hour ago. You think?
Yeah, it was right before our number 5 pick. Yeah,
right.
I think it was like honestly on the dot about a half an hour ago. So check it
Right.
out. We have thoughts.
All right. That was your number 2, right, Brent?
Yes.
No, that was your number 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine looks like there's a book here that no one else read. Was Get Fury issue 1.
I did not read it.
I did not. I looked at it and I was like,
do I want a Fury book?
Right.
It's cool because it's got the Punisher in it. So
cool. Okay.
The way this book works,
the actual Punisher.
Yeah.
It's a flashback story.
It's
I think,
it's
right?
a story that takes place during the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
So and what happens is, Nick Fury is captured by the Viet Cong, and so what happens is they're recruiting Frank Castle to go after him because he has all this information in his brain that they're going to try to get from him. Right. There is probably a lot of dialogue in this comic for a first issue, but it's necessary to understand everything that's going on. But at the end of the day, this book gets very dark. You know how you're talking about Blood Hunt and like, let's get a poly bag because it's all bloody. This book is bloody. This book is bad. Like, you get to see a soldier that was next to Nick Fury. He winds up getting his freaking face half chopped off. And he gets machetes and limbs all chopped off of him and everything else. And then there's another scene where another guy gets buried alive and you actually see it happen. It's just very dark. And I was just like, holy cow, man, this is taking it to the next level. But Frank Castle is going to go in there and he's going to try to rescue Nick Fury. This was pretty freaking good. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. And I absolutely, man, I loved it. Really good stuff.
That's good.
Serious and dark, and just, it's not for the young at heart, though.
That's something we didn't really talk about with Blood Hunt, was that, did the gore actually live up to the polybag? And no, not honestly, I feel like I would see that in a normal book. So it's just like, no, it wasn't at all.
I did not say this previously, but like I mentioned the Nick Fury book. I actually mentioned the Deadpool and Wolverine book had a lot of blood in it. But what I didn't mention was the Wolverine book with the Sabretooth War. That's got all kinds of blood and gore and beheadings and and stuff like that. And that's not polybag. This had like 2 pages of like maybe some blood in it. And that was it. Like there was nothing there to where I was like, this is not really pushing the envelope. And it's vampires. So it makes it like, it's not that big deal. Where Get Fury is a war book. You know what I'm saying? That's like, that could actually happen. Yeah. So I don't know. It didn't justify a polybag, in my opinion.
I agree.
Sure.
All right. So I guess with that being said, we're going to go with our number 1. So what was your number 1, Kat?
Mine was a book you guys I don't think read. Toxic Summer, issue 1. It's from Oni Press. It's about these 2 boys. Yeah, it was fun. It was a really cool book. These 2 boys want to get with more boys, and they're like, let's go to this beach, right? And have a summer job. This beach's got all the hotties, right? And they go there, and there's toxic waste. They're like, no one's here. You got to clean up the beach. And there's like this other group of teens, and they end up hanging out, and these teens turn into like a toxic monster, and the 2 boys have to deal with that. So it's just like fun. Yeah, it's like a fun book. It's something really original. The characters were super interesting. The art was like to show you like the coloring. It's like this. It's like really cool, like Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah. It's like really unique. I liked it. It was
almost like an 80s B movie kind of.
Yes, exactly like that. I had a really good time with it. I was pleasantly surprised. If you guys haven't picked up Toxic Summer, go check it out. It was good.
Very cool. What do you got, Brent?
Blood Hunt.
Okay. There you go. It's nothing wrong with
that. I just felt like Brent had more Blood Hunt. Brent had more passion for Spider-Woman, though, so I think you should have switched them.
I mean, we've already talked about Blood Hunt, you know.
That's true.
Yeah. Mine was Energon Universe, the free comic book day book.
Yeah, I haven't got to read that one yet.
It really does enhance your overall experience for everything that goes on in the Energon Universe. And I know Kat doesn't have that deep connection like, say, Brant and I do, and that's why she can't connect to it as
especially the later parts too, like the G.I. Joe stuff. I was really lost. At least Transformers, like they kind of spell it out where you're like, okay, he's the bad guy, he's a good guy. I've been following them, and I guess this is a different one. Yeah.
Megatron is obviously the one that's been missing this entire time. He's the leader of the Decepticons.
And you got it from the villain's point of view a little bit more.
And you got to see what happened to him. Like you literally see the battle between him and Optimus Prime. And you wind up seeing Starscream betray him, and it was really cool. The cool thing about this book is that portion of the book was drawn by Ryan Otley. So
I noticed.
That was really good. I mean, that's kind of the artwork that you get to see there.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So he draws that portion of it, and so I was like, okay, Ryan Otley, you can come draw Transformers. You know,
I'm good with that.
Yeah. So that was really cool to see what happens to Megatron, and it does connect to G.I. Joe on who captures him. So I'm not going to spoil that for Brant because he hasn't read the whole thing yet. And then you get another story that's connected with Void Rivals, where Hot Rod makes his appearance, and I know he was in there, so that's why I talked about that.
Right.
But there's somebody there that he is looking for, and he's asking that collector guy for his help to get information. And then you get a story with G.I. Joe, as this is an aftermath of the Duke series that ended. Gotcha. So that was really cool. And there's a little surprise there at the end that where you're like, oh, okay, I didn't see this coming either. So again, I think it enhances the story, and this was by far not only the best free comic book day of the bunch, if you've been following this, but I think it's probably the best comic book of the week, and you get it for free. So you can't ask for anything more. Nice. So I really, really enjoyed this book.
Very cool. I do believe they're putting out a version of it with variant covers this week.
It.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Marvel is doing the same thing. They're combining theirs into
Why
something
not
called
make
Marvel
money?
Zero. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
I also got a trade I got the first trade of Transformers.
That's smart.
Nice.
Yeah, I got that. It's actually not released till tomorrow, but my shop was actually releasing it early because they wanted to get it in people's hands.
Sure,
they're like, just don't post it online. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Right. So but yeah, they were releasing it, and I was like, I'm all over it. So I wound up getting in the first trade that covers his first 6 issues.
Nice.
So that's cool. And that's our number 1. So with that being said, I gotta get some water. Brant, you can start the most anticipated.
Yeah, let's do it. So Transformers is on our list. I'll just put that out there right away. But yeah, so I'll start with you, Kat, because you've got a book that I've been hearing so much about as your number 3, which is The Boy Wonder, which is a Black Label story about Damian.
I hope it's not a big book. I hope it's not one of those magazine styles.
Oh,
that's
too.
all I care. But the reason I'm anticipating it is because I don't really know what to expect. Usually these Black Label books are Batman or Superman. So I was like, oh, cool. This is going to be about Damian. That's awesome. So honestly, that's really the big reason. It's not because like I need a Damian book. It's more like, oh, this is something we haven't seen from the Black Label. So I'm curious about it.
Gotcha. I've seen so many people talking about this book. It's crazy.
I'm excited
What's
about
that?
it.
Damian one?
Yeah,
the Boy Wonder. Yeah. So are you going to get it, Mike?
Oh, thank God. It's not magazine size, guys.
Good.
I wasn't at first, and I'm like, you know what? Because I thought it was magazine also. But then I was like, it's number 1. I got to talk about it because people will be asking me about it.
Yeah, same because the Friday First thing I do. Yeah, very much smaller audience, but somebody will ask. Anyway, moving on to another number 1. That's my number 3 is Faith Returns, issue 1 from Valiant. My absolute favorite character from Valiant these days, and I'm excited to see Faith back. It's been a while since I've read a Faith book, and Jody Houser does such a wonderful job with the character, so I'm excited for it.
Very cool.
All right, so Mike, Gunslinger, back again, always on your list.
Always
31.
on my list. I mean, right now there's not too much happening. Like I said, Javier is still recovering from his almost fatal wounds that he's acquired in the last battle, and he can't heal because I know I told you guys this. There's these things called the dead zones, and they've expanded, and when they're expanded or the spawns are close to them, they can't heal. And that's all these creatures. That's all the symbiote spawns. There's all the heaven and hells, the angels, everybody else, they can't heal. So it's just a tough situation right now. And Javier's just trying to heal himself. And he came across a building where it had the same branded logo where they branded his family back in the day and killed his family. And he came across a building with that logo on there. So now he's going to stop at that building and pay those people a visit.
Nice.
So pretty interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, for sure. And then speaking of interesting, Kat, this book, I looked at that too. It's interesting. I like the art. I like the art on the cover, at least, which is Crocodile Black. It's from Boom, right?
Yeah, and it's the same guy who does Philip Kennedy Johnson, who does Hulk. Which
and did the Superman Action Comics story as well. Yeah,
the Superman Action Comics. And I just been hearing a lot of buzz. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this book, like you were just saying, Brant. Been seeing it online a lot. So just love to get into a new indie.
There's a trailer on it on YouTube too that I saw.
Is there?
Yeah. I think when my comic shop sent me the FOC letter, they had the YouTube trailer on there.
They're definitely promoting it.
Yeah, it definitely looks different. So we'll see what happens with it.
And it's like a crime story too, right? So
yeah, it's like a vigilante. I don't want to say vigilante. I think you're right. Crime is probably the best genre to put it in. It's like I don't remember the exact story, but it was interesting. So yeah, cool.
And I'll skip my number 2 because it's the only one that Mike and I have together. We'll go to Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, number 6.
Is that ending soon?
That's it. This is the final
last issue. Yeah.
Yep.
So trade will be next. Yeah.
trade it, guys. Please,
Yep.
just please do yourself
Check
a
it out.
favor and read this. When you get the trade, you will burn through it. It's
I'm
not going
excited
to
for
take
that.
you
Yeah,
it'll take you probably about 25-30 minutes less than freaking Nightwing Annual did. It's a really great book. I can't stress it enough. Don't let it pass by you and go into comic book, I don't know where, old comic books go that you don't read. Don't forget about it. Like, just pick it up, read it. You'll really enjoy it. I'm telling you. It's a great story. You're just going to get the conclusion with this Samantha, I think her name is the bear, and what she's going to do to someone that kind of threw her under the bus here. I'm just going to say that, but great book.
All right, cool. So on mine and Mike's list is Transformers. Obviously, we talked a lot about Transformers this week, so that's always on my list too. I love Transformers, and so always excited for that book.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think you're going to get more of a story with them being on Cybertron this time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And there's that Autobot that's in that building that is all like destroyed. Do you remember that part, Bram? Remember,
No.
like in the beginning of the last issue, it was like they were on Cybertron, and they were trying to get to the other side to go through this building to find an Autobot that was in there, and you saw it, and he was all like blown up and destroyed, but you couldn't tell who it was.
Yeah,
it looked like it could be Ultra Magnus. I'm just saying.
Oh.
Not Ultra Magnus.
Yes, Cat. Ultra Magnus.
Ultra Magnus would be cool. Yeah,
we know how much you love Ultra Magnus.
I mean, Ultra
my
Magnus.
favorite.
He's your favorite. Yeah,
my favorite of the Magnuses. I know there's a few of them. So, Tevia asks, "Is anyone excited for Amazing Spider-Man with Blood Hunt?" No.
No.
On.
All right.
It's freaking Morbius. Who cares?
The next issue of Amazing Spider-Man is a Blood Hunt tie-in.
Morbius.
But it kicks off the actual miniseries. You understand? So it's like you have Amazing Spider-Man issue 49 that talks about Blood Hunt, and then after that, it's going to be a spin-off. And then issue 50 continues whatever's going on with Spider-Man there.
That makes no sense. I hate it when they do that. That's what aggravates me.
Dude, I'm glad it's just not more than one issue.
Yeah.
Do it if I don't have to read it more and more of it. Again, I'm being negative. Maybe I'll enjoy it, but
but I mean, at least it doesn't take place more than one issue.
True. No, exactly.
In your regular Amazing Spider-Man book, because that's what we were talking about before, how it interrupts your story. Well, you're kind of going around that.
They could have just done the miniseries.
Just do a miniseries. Yeah. Why interrupt it at all?
Because they want the readers, they want the potential. It's good promotion. It's like, okay, our biggest flagship book, we should promote this event that we're hoping people to buy, and we're hoping someone will buy this miniseries. So I get it from a promotional standpoint, but from a reading standpoint, I'm good.
Yeah. I can't wait for those great looking vampires that are going to be drawn.
John Romita Jr., right? Because I know
he's doing that interview. Yeah.
So wonderful.
A lot of close up with fangs and teeth.
Yeah.
I'm not quite looking forward to that one, I will say. I was looking through my list, and Amazing Spider-Man was not. Which just sucks because it's been pretty good recently. I've actually liked the last couple of arcs, so it does suck to say that. It's just that the writing's on the wall that I'm not excited for this.
Right.
I think the issue after that has to deal with the Sinister Six.
That'll be more exciting. That'll be more interesting.
What is interesting, though, to at least Kat and I, because it's both our number ones, is Ain't No Grave from its Image, I believe. This is Scotty Young and Jorge Corona.
I was surprised that Mike didn't have this. I mean, I guess not because of what's on your list, but this is like this. Yeah, the person, the creative team that did
Middle West, the media.
I am buying this. I am getting it. It just wasn't on my obviously my most anticipated, but I am getting this. Sometimes I don't know what to expect with independent titles that I'm unsure of. Yes, it does have a great creative team on there, and the cover looked phenomenal on it, but I just don't know what to expect from it. So that's why I
Yeah.
couldn't really get all excited, but I'm definitely checking it out.
Yeah. No, I think it just looks so cool. I think the premise is cool. It's like a Western single mom situation, I think. So it's cool.
It's like a flip on that, traditional story where it's usually a guy and his whole family's wiped out and he goes in, but they flipped it to where it's the woman, which I think is really cool. So
he's writing it. Who's drawing it?
Jorge Corona.
Yeah,
Corona's drawing it. Okay.
All the other stuff. Yeah.
In the dark, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that one, especially because this week is kind of weird. There's not like, whoa, here's Blood on issue 1, here's whatever. There's some good indies coming out.
I'm getting a lot of books though.
Yeah,
I think I have like 19 on my pull.
Wow, I'm not getting that. I think I'm getting like 11 or so. I'm getting my average, but yeah, it was. I won't say it was harder to make the most anticipated, but I was surprised to see as many indies as there were. Like honestly, Marvel wise, I'm not getting like a ton. I'm getting like 3 books. So yeah, it's a 10 book week for me. So we'll see.
Nice.
Definitely more than that for me.
Yeah.
I'm just looking.
Last week was great because it was like, man, I got like 12 books or something like that. It was an easy week for me. I was done reading by like, I think it was like Friday. I was like, that never happened.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Then you had your free comic books, so
and then I wound up reading the big ones,
I think I'm getting at least 20 from looking at just skimming the list.
Wow.
Yeah, I can see that. That's like me. It's very similar.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, that's about it. We're gonna wrap it up for tonight. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you had a wonderful time. And if you're watching this on the playback, well, thank you just as much. Make sure you subscribe to Comic Book Weekly's YouTube channel and to my channel as well, Comic Book Corner 2.0, where the streams on. And then, of course, subscribe to Cat Comic Uno and to Only Good Comics, guys. And, hit the bell, thumbs up, follow us on the socials, all that great stuff. Thank you guys for watching once again. And hopefully all 3 of us will see you next week. Have a great new comic book day, guys. Good night.